I've always been impressed by French pastry, and I've always wondered why it was the ultimate compared to any other pastry tradition. Earlier on my channel, I made a very good video explaining why French pastry is the best in the world, but this time I had to go to Paris to get to the bottom of this question. This was my second trip to France after visiting the French Riviera last year. I did not prepare for this trip whatsoever, as I just wanted to have my spontaneous impressions on the city documented for this video, so let's check it out. The moment you enter the city, you get enveloped by an overpowering sense of androgyny. I never thought of cities having a gender identity as such, but the buildings, the repetitive roads, the fashion, and the utter predictability of everything makes the general vibe of the city highly genderless. The philosophical and literary roots of French culture are well manifested in this place, and that's what made me understand why Paris became the world center of pastries over the last few hundred years. And here is how that happened. French culture and philosophy are a blend of masculine values like centralized governance and universalism, but also a lot of counteracting feminine ideals like subjectivity, language, and psychoanalysis. And by combining all those features, you end up with a pretty gender-neutral vibe, unlike other patriarchal cultures, like Italy for instance, which is more about politics, ethics, power, and realism. The dominant architectural style of Paris is the Haussmannian style, which interestingly combines masculine elements like the monumental scale and symmetry with feminine features like delicate ornate balconies and sensual curves, in one massive asexual urbanicity. In the beginning, I assumed that it was a highly feminine energy overtaking the place, especially with the incredible number of breasts being partially or mostly exposed, with a deliberate disregard to the invention of the bra. But after a second thought, I realized that exposing breasts isn't inherently a feminine statement. It's rather an act of total erasure of femininity on the one hand by the reversal of feminine mystery, and on the other hand, an erasure of masculine authority, as one main highlight of masculine dominance across the majority of world cultures is covering breasts from the public view. Romantic values and aesthetics are all about the total removal of traditional gender manifestations and replacing them by some higher human identity, an asexual identity. The reason I'm discussing all of this in a food video is to understand the mentality driving the excellence of French pastry. Not only architecture can make us understand that, but there's also a strong correlation between fashion and confectionery. When it comes to fashion, French fashion is quite gender neutral, as it combines feminine subtlety and soft romantic undertones while maintaining masculine features like monochrome palettes, tailoring precision, and high shoulders. French fashion is far from maximalist, glamorous power dressing, which is more masculine, like Italian fashion for example. French male dressing is either very reserved or unisex at best. By applying the same contrasting features, French desserts also represent that kind of gender fusion. On the one feminine hand, it's delicate, ornate, quite refined in presentation, subtle in flavor, but on the other hand, it's also quite geometric, structured, symmetric, and minimalistic. To make it more clear, try to compare French desserts with Italian desserts, which are more bold in flavor, grotesque in appearance, and less stylized. Anyhow, you can't imagine how fashionable the city is. People were dressed incredibly well, even on their lunch breaks. Every lunch break is like a warm-up party for a film festival. In Paris, pastry is considered a genre within the domain of fashion, like in the window display of the jewelry store Yvon Leon, which shows that French pastry is a pillar in French culture. You have to understand something about dessert. Dessert is not just food. It's only in very recent times that technology made us take the ubiquity of sweets for granted. But desserts are not only the pinnacle of the culinary experience, but they are the manifestation of civilization in its purest form. Whenever you research a great dessert, you will most probably discover that it was invented in some golden age, under the supervision of a royal court of some sort. The Chinese mooncake, baklava, babka, kakumbush, the Indian gulab jamun, the Austrian Sachertorte or pastel de nata in Portugal were all designed specifically for royalty. And Paris is one of the top 10 most advanced cities in the world. So if we're talking about civilization and its impact in culinary culture, the city couldn't be more relevant. The first surprising impression was that I haven't seen as many bakeries as I expected, simply because I estimated that there would be way more patisseries in Paris than there were in Nice, which I visited last year. And that is actually true in terms of numbers. There are definitely more patisseries in Paris than in Nice. It just didn't seem to be that way. Paris has around 2 million residents, and Nice has 340,000, with a much smaller difference when it comes to the area of both cities, making Paris have way more people in each square kilometer than Nice. In Paris, there is around 1,300 patisseries, making a single patisserie for each 2,000 people, while in Nice, there's around 200 bakeries, making a patisserie for each 1,300 people. But the reason for Nice seeming to have way more patisseries than Paris is that patisseries in Nice are all clustered around high foot traffic spots. Also, the much smaller population makes most famous patisseries tend to be close to each other, making it easy to dessert hop from one place to another on foot. It couldn't be more different in Paris, as I had to travel from one place to another using the 16 subway lines running under it, serving 225 kilometers of tracks and 303 stations. It's like another city underground. My second impression was the grandeur of the patisserie experience in Paris compared to any other place in the world. By having resident household names like Laduree, Pierre Hermé, and other names of recent popularity like Cedric Grolet, Paris spearheads the luxurious innovation of confectionery. The desserts simply look straight out of another dimension. The amount of human effort and the accumulation of human development is condensed in each item. They're not even trying hard. It's just a spontaneous byproduct of this long-standing tradition of confectionery excellence. In my previous trip to Nice, I only saw Pierre Hermé in the airport, and I was fascinated by his celebration of French macarons. Called the Picasso of pastry by Vogue, Hermé was awarded the title of the world's best pastry chef in 2016 by the world's 50 best restaurant. He was also ranked the 4th most influential French person in the world by Vanity Fair. Hermé started his career at the age of 14, and he was an apprentice to Gaston Lenotre, the inventor of the opera cake. Hermé is famous for popularizing French macaron and introducing new flavors to it. He has other inventions too, like the Plaisir Sucré, Isfahan, and the deux mille-feuille, which is a sensational rendition of the famous mille-feuille. It melts in your mouth with a golden balance of everything inside. A perfect multi-textured blend of subtle caramelized crunchiness of the Brittany-style crepe dentelle biscuit and the creaminess of the praline mousseline cream. It was one addictive treat for sure, and I would also call it a converter, as it would turn someone who dislikes mille-feuille into an instant fan. The macarons of Hermé were decent, given that they were mass-produced in a hybrid process of mechanization and artisanal supervision. You just can't resist becoming a fan of this brand's elegance and sophistication. Especially when you visit the chocolate branches. Over there you receive a warm welcome and also get to see one of the most compelling product presentations ever. That takes us to another household name, which is Laduree, a place believed to be the inventor of the French macarons around 100 years ago, and a place that caused me a devastating disappointment in this trip. The macarons were nothing but a sugar bomb of bizarre flavors and industrial textures. I was in a total disbelief to the point that I started biting each macaron real quick from the fancy macaron stand just to reach a single decent macaron. Not a single one qualified. That made me wonder about how the place that invented macarons could fail so drastically and yet maintain such popularity and high prices. That made me also think about why most macarons are uneatable. Do people even know how this thing should taste like in the first place? Among each 10 macarons I tried from different confectioneries in different countries, 1 was fine, 6 were bad, and 3 were totally uneatable. After giving it a thought, I realized that the mechanization of the macaron making process is to be blamed, as macarons require autistic observation skills as well as manual supervision throughout the process, as the slightest deviance would lead to a definite failure. That leaves a very little room for high quality when the process is entirely automated. That also explains the substantial quality difference between the macarons of Laduree and Pierre Herme, as the first is entirely mechanized while Hermé's macarons are only partially automated. Another must-see in Paris is the Cedric Grolet boutiques. Cedric Grolet is the guy who's been breaking the internet for a few years now, doing all these fantastic inventions in his kitchen. His shops is a thing that I haven't seen the like of before. The very funky entremets mimicking fruits or other foods, the waiting line outside with the bouncer by the door were all touristic attractions. Even people didn't seem to mind waiting forever outside to get a chance to get inside. And believe me, those lines sometimes were endless. I visited his main branch, which is like one part is a confectionery and another one behind it operates as a cafe, and he has another branch which is a little bit fancier in the Maurice Hotel. Artisan and small patisseries were also unique and outstanding in their own way, especially with that brutal, savage competition in this environment. Check this minimal cookie shop for example. Everything looks so nice over there. Or this little boutique called l'Éclair de Génie. How can you resist an excellent presentation and a variety of flavors as such? Or this other artisan place called Yann Couvreur, which had a fox in its logo and some fox-shaped cakes inside. They had a distinctive, once again, minimal style, which I really found cool, like they designed their own molds and all. Also, their croissants looked impeccable. I found also an eye-catching artisan bakery that had specialty breads that looked cool and sold in a very hip atmosphere. On the one hand, I must admit that I was really disappointed by the city. It was very unauthentic and very lifeless. None of the monuments was even remotely beautiful, apart from some of the floral facades of some shops. The Eiffel Tower is just an overhyped pile of metal monstrosity. The Champs-Élysées looks very underwhelming in every architectural and aesthetic sense, and the motion of the traffic there gave me migraines. The Sacré-Cœur looks like some AI-generated building from 2021. The Moulin Rouge was a total joke. I thought I would see at least 2 prostitutes in fishnet leggings smoking slim cigarettes, but none of that was there. And in general, the streets and the urban layout of Paris was so repetitive, like a loop of a few blocks that kept going on forever. Not to mention having to wait for more than an hour right after landing just to get an overpriced underground ticket. And ending the trip by spending the last night in the police station after the room service of the 5-star hotel we were in stole a phone from our room. Having said all of that, I still firmly believe that visiting Paris is a must for all pastry professionals and enthusiasts. Let me know what you think about the video in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon in more videos to come.